Hello and welcome back. This is Candace from Candoodle, and today I'm going to be making these really pretty sympathy cards and showing how I like to do my mass-produced template stamping. So let's get started. Okay, so today I'm going to be using the Altenew Build-A-Flower Rose Stamp and Die, the Simon Says Stamp Sympathy Greetings Mix, and the Altenew Sketched Line Stencil, as well as some Altenew inks. So this is a technique I like to use when I know I'm going to mass produce with a stamp set, and not necessarily mass produce all at once, but over time I can see myself getting a lot of use out of certain stamped images. So it's a lot of work up front, but I promise you this will pay dividends in the long run, especially if it's for a stamp set you know you're going to use a lot. So first off, I take a piece of cardstock out of 110 pound. I like it to be a bit thicker, and I know it's going to fit perfectly in my MISTI. And then I cut out as many dies of the stamp layering set that will fit. So I usually like to use as many layers as it has. So if it's a flower that has 2 layers, I'll only cut 2 of the flowers, but this particular set actually has like 4 or 5 layers. So I only cut 3 because that was all I had room for, but I'll show you a trick around that a little bit later. So once I have all of my die cutting done, I put it in my MISTI and I'm gonna line it up layer by layer. So on the bottom, I like to do my first layer, which is usually the one that's the largest. And then as I work my way up, I'm gonna do the second layer and then the third layer. So I'm just taking that positive die cut and placing it in each of the subsequent spots within my little template. And I'm gonna stamp those down and make sure they're in the right spot. If they're not in the right spot, I'm gonna move them and get another die cut and make sure that they're exactly where I want them. So I did that with both the flower and the leaf. The leaf I did the 2 layers and the flowers I did the 3 layers. Again, this one has a few more layers, but I'll show you how I get around that. So I know Jennifer McGuire has showed this and other strategies for doing this in her videos, but I wanted to tailor this for somebody who only has one MISTI or maybe can't mass produce all at once. So for me, what I like to do, which you just saw me do, is make that little template in the back there, which shows where my stamp layers are gonna go. So the reason I do this is because if I have the front layer, sure, I know where my positive dies are gonna go, but I'm next time when I put this in my MISTI, I'm going to have to do all the lining up again, which is something I really struggle with. My dies are often just a little bit off, and then I have to restamp them and waste that die. So once I have everything nicely done and I know it aligns with my template jig in the front, I stamp it just on a piece of plain copy paper behind it, and that way I can keep that with my template. And the next time I put this in my MISTI, all I have to do is line up my stamps with that back template that has everything stamped already, and then I know I can use my front template jig and everything is going to line up seamlessly. So I just find that that's a really easy way for me to do this, especially because I don't often get time to sit down all at once and mass produce hundreds of these. So it makes it easier to mass produce in the future as well. I hope that that makes sense and that this gives you an additional strategy, especially for those of us who only have one MISTI or we have limited time to sit down and stamp many things at once or get interrupted and have to make a different card in between. So as I said, this stamp set actually has 4 or 5 layers. So the way that I get around that is I take off, once I'm done, my bottom layer and I use that as my 4th layer. So as you can see there, my bottom part of my template has 2 stamp sets on top of each other, but I find that that's okay because I usually have to do my stamping in stages anyway, and it doesn't interfere with being able to see where the first one goes because it's the largest stamp and the smallest stamp of the set. So that is how I like to do my template stamping, and I hope that that makes sense. I feel like I didn't make a ton of sense while I was explaining that. Anyways, so now we are going to do the rest of the cards. So this is on my card base, and I just went ahead and used that stencil as well as the lightest blue ink in that stamp set, which I believe is the Lapis Lazuli set, and it's the color Iceberg. And I used my sketched line stencil just to give it a nice background. And then I'm coming in with some of my die cuts and stamps that I made previously. And I'm just kind of lining those up with where I would like them. And I like to really get use out of all of my little pieces. So as you can see, I cut part of that leaf off and then I found a way to fit it under my other flower. And I decided I wanted to pop that one up on some foam tape. So I am going to do that as well. And it just gives the card some extra dimension. And then I'm going to come in with the With Sympathy sentiment from the Simon Says Stamp Sympathy Greetings Mix set. I absolutely love this Sympathy stamp set. It is such a good one. And then to finish it off, I am going to add some gems because you know I need to. And while I was making this card, I actually made quite a few, but I held 2 here on camera just to show that this is a great technique to use when you're trying to mass produce. So I hope today's video gave you some ideas for mass producing and sympathy cards. As always, I really appreciate the time that you spend here with me. Don't forget to give this video a like if you haven't already, and I would appreciate subscribing. As always, you can find me over on Instagram at Candoodle Creations, and until then, I will see you in my next video. Bye!